Hi, Miss Virginia. It's good to see you again this year. And I come to you with a lot of good news and a different format. In the past, we've traditionally had all of our members in our Corps physically attend our session. And last year, we tried to have all of our members remotely attend. And this year we have opted for a more intimate presentation where you'll have some opportunity to get a big picture sense of things, but also get to know some of the things that we've been doing over the past year and get to know some of our members a little bit more individually. For those who are a little less familiar with AmeriCorps, AmeriCorps is similar in many ways to a service with the Peace Corps, the military, where individuals from across the country sign up for a term of service. And with CAC AmeriCorps, that means serving in Knox and immediately surrounding counties. These individuals have served with us since 1994. As we've been the longest running continuously funded program in the state of Tennessee. We have over 700 alums that have come through our program. And and this year we look to facilitate about 105 unique member positions. So we've gone from facilitating about 10, 15 people to about 105 people a year. In 3 core programs, over 50 unique partner sites, primarily in Knox, Blount, and Anderson County. Our partnerships include everyone from city and county government to the federal government through the National Park Service, CAC elements, including Mobile Meals and Beardsley Farm, as well as well-known community partners like Keep Knoxville Beautiful, Times Nature Center, Seed, and many more. This is all supported by 4 full-time staff and 2 VISTA leaders, and we'll learn a little bit more about some of the activities of our VISTA leaders this year. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you for this presentation. Right. Oh. Okay, there we go. So a little bit about last year's outcome. Last year, a lot of what we did was remote. It was definitely an adaptation year where we shifted from a program that was very in-person, very face-to-face, very much about being together, to a program that tried to find a line in between, keeping people remote in some cases and separated, but still trying to create community. And it was really challenging, but nonetheless, our members still managed to treat nearly 1,500 acres of public lands. We educated over 500 kids, 3rd through 12th grade, using a Beatles-informed model, which is basically an environmental education model that gets kids from all backgrounds thinking like scientists and learning that they too can make observations and learn and go through scientific processes and identify ways to make a difference in their local community. We also leveraged nearly 4,000 volunteer hours for a value of over $100,000. So our members still did a fantastic job getting things done. And this year, with the benefits of learning from the previous year, I think we've come to strike a better balance in terms of how to manage groups of people within the context of COVID-19. What I will say is that the recruitment environment has shifted dramatically, putting us in probably the most challenging recruitment climate that I've seen. We've probably reached out to individually to over 5,000 people this year. We've conducted about 200 interviews, which is actually down from a standard year. And we've placed about 73 of our positions, which is about 91.25% of our full allocation. To put that in context, we are generally at 100% every single year. In the fall, after August, we're generally trying to fill 2 or 3 spots that haven't been filled by the August start date. And this year, we were looking at filling over 20 positions in the fall. So to be as close to 100% as we are is definitely an accomplishment. In addition, our retention is near 100% at 98.64%, which I think speaks a lot towards the character of this Corps, who's just been really amazing this year thus far. Some of the unique market and cultural forces that we're working with is COVID-19, for sure, people's reluctance to relocate in the context of a pandemic. We're seeing a lot of ghosting, or people who just disappear from our application process, or decline offers once they're made at a higher rate than usual. There is a significant increase in remote work. So many of the people we reach out to are interested in serving, but they're not quite comfortable enough, again, to relocate, but would be interested in remote options. There's a lot of talk about the Great Resignation, which I think has to do a lot with people's kind of reconsideration of what work means. And that kind of connects to the bottom item, shifting an understanding of what AmeriCorps in service is. Our housing market is tightening. There's an increased cost of living. And fortunately, our living allowance has gone up over the past year from $14,000 to $16,000. But I would imagine that many of those gains are being counterbalanced by cost of living items. So working within that, but definitely still getting things done. And here's a really basic snapshot of our members, not quite as comprehensive as having everyone come up and say their names, but we have about 85 full-time members and 20 part-time members that we'll be facilitating this year. 41.3% of them are from the state of Tennessee. So to contextualize the importance of people's willingness to travel and go on a journey for service, over half of our members are from other states, 16 other states this year. So when the climate is not conducive for people feeling safe or in a position to make those journeys, it becomes a real challenge to fill those spots. Our farthest away individual is from Washington State this year. With how things are shifting, and we started this process long before that, we believe deeply in increasing the value argument for service. You know, the baseline of what AmeriCorps members receive is a living stipend and an education award, some health benefits. But really, there are many, many ways that people can make a difference, right? There are many different causes, many ways people can serve. So we feel like it's important to create the most productive and dynamic value argument that we can within the construct that we have. So this year, we started with an orientation at the Regis Building downtown. This was an in-person orientation that had indoor-outdoor components, requirements for masks, and there were some really creative shifts that allowed people to have lunch at local vendors downtown. So while they were being oriented to each other, they were also given the opportunity to orient to parts of the community organically through those processes. Last December, we had a group of alums approach us about an interest in starting up a mentorship program for our members, and we thought it was a great idea. Last year, there was a lot of issue with connecting, and we thought, well, if we can connect members not only to each other, but maybe a support network of alums, that can be an additional layer of support that we can implement. And this is the first year that we've been running it. It has had its unique challenges and hurdles, but it's a learning process, and we think it's a really unique value argument for our particular core. Our days of service, which are traditionally large group events where we'll have 50 plus people at a given site, and we have 1 or 2 sites, are being split up into 5 to 10 smaller events so people can get to know each other on a smaller scale, but also to maintain lower densities of individuals at service day events. We've also introduced a community impact fund, which is essentially a small grants program that's only available to our members. And basically what we've done is we've allocated a small budget to allow members to submit proposals for site level projects that they get to the site, they learn about the city, their site, and they find unique needs that maybe aren't funded on the site level. So we're able to inject several $100s here for this or that so that they can implement creative projects and things that they identify through their own unique perspectives. We have a very active service learning initiators group, which is a group of members that meet regularly to plan additional social events, reflection opportunities, and those have been really well attended this year, a lot of thoughtful participation. And in addition, our newsletter, which we've run for a couple years now, has evolved into a newsletter slash zine. And a zine is basically like a self-published, non-commercial print work, typically produced in smaller quantities. It's very focused on like the handmade, the creative process. And we've had a lot of interest and participation in that, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that in a second. And we also continue to facilitate unique partnerships with graduate schools that offer reduced tuition for our members, as well as partnerships that offer members the opportunity to get certifications. But with that, I'm actually going to turn you over to Ashlee Mays. She's one of our VISTA leaders, and she's going to talk a little bit more specifically about the indirect service zine that we have started to publish. Switch this slide. There you go.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Jason, for the introduction. My name is Ashlee Mays, and I am serving as a VISTA leader here in the CAC AmeriCorps office. And I'm really excited to share with you all this new project that we've launched this year. It is the Indirect Service Member-Driven Zine. And as Jason said, a zine is a self-published, non-commercial printed booklet, and we have physical copies available here at CAC if you would like one. As a VISTA leader, my role entails member support, managing VISTA program data and recruitment, and it's a really wonderful position because it affords me a bird's eye view of the wide variety of programs and organizations doing work in poverty alleviation and environmental restoration here in the East Tennessee region. But my background's actually in fine art, and I joined CAC AmeriCorps after completing a graduate degree in printmaking at the University of Tennessee. And I think that stories are really powerful. My work as an artist and art historian looks back at the history of printed material as a physical archive of what images, information, and ideas were important enough to mechanize and repeat. As human people, we hinge our societies on the repetition of stories on both an individual level and collectively. We use stories to manifest concepts that would otherwise exist purely in an imagined state. Our collective trust in stories create things such as money and religion and gender and laws and nations. And I believe now more than ever, it is of grave importance for us to be very aware of what stories we are telling and what stories we're believing. So our zine project is twofold. It aims to both give the mic to members so that we can hear their stories, but it also offers an exercise in framing and reframing our relationship to service. So the theme for this issue is conservation. Our history as a Corps has its roots in conservation. Early national service manifested as the CCC, or the Civilian Conservation Corps. And to this day, a really large sector of national service is still dedicated to this concept of conservation. But what does it mean to conserve something? And what are the things that we should work to conserve? Conservation can be applied across vast fields, both literally and figuratively. So in this issue of indirect service, we'll be exploring the ways that we serve to conserve our resources, our health, our communities, our culture, and our habitats for both the human and more than human worlds. So first up, we have Jess GerberDolan.
Hi guys, I'm here. So yeah, I'm Jess GerberDolan. I am from Massachusetts, and I came down here because I did AmeriCorps and CCC last year, and my team member who was in my group found CAC and was like, I'm gonna do that. And I was like, that looks really great. I'm gonna join you. So I was in the office one day where I am now, and it was raining out, which is my favorite place to be when it rains because we have giant open windows to watch it. And I was literally just thinking about the rain as I started to write this poem, the little haiku. So nature is present, continuously waiting. We're the ones rushing. Because it was a haiku, I struggled with the syllables for a little bit. This has gone through a couple of iterations, but the whole point was always the same. Like, I was inside and the outside was there and I could go, but I'm choosing not to. That's really what I have to say.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cele Weakfall. I'm serving as one of the VISTA leaders with CAC AmeriCorps. Before I moved here in 2020 to serve at CAC AmeriCorps, I lived in North Carolina, mainly working in EMS and restaurants. Knoxville was somewhere I'd never been, and I wanted a career change, particularly one that focused on environmental conservation. The forward in this scene that's up on the slide is by me next to my face. And it's really just about what conservation means to me, specifically trying to address the overwhelming sense of helplessness that a lot of us feel when faced with the facts on climate change or any really large social issue that deals with a lot of systems. So instead of accepting this sort of apathy or overwhelm, I encourage all of us to remember together that we can all help each other and our planet heal if we first believe in the power of our voice to make that change. And so with that, I'll say thanks for the opportunity to tell my story and allow all of us to share what we're doing here at CAC AmeriCorps. I appreciate everyone's time, and I'll go ahead and pass it along to the next person.
Hi everyone, I'm Deb Bethel. I'm serving at UT Sustainability. I'm originally from Illinois, Southern Illinois. I have a background in English education, and kind of along with like the Great Resignation, I guess, then I really had a just a change of heart. I also needed a break from kids. I was nannying during the pandemic, so I wanted to pursue another passion of mine, which is just environmental studies and conservation and sustainability. So with my work at UT Sustainability, I work with excess and providing access. So we work a lot with alleviating food insecurity, both with the garden that I oversee, that is like campus run, student run garden. And then we also do food recovery from home football games. We recovered just under 15,000 pounds of food from the 9 home football games at UT this season. And all of that food is then turned around, made into new meals and given to the school pantry and also Second Harvest and Farm. So that's something that's been really awesome that I've been able to be a part of. And then along with the garden and food recovery, I also work, I oversee the Free Store, which is also on UT's campus. And the Free Store collects clothing, housewares, and non-perishable donations. And so that's avoiding waste and excess and kind of the problem of too much, and then turns that back around to help those with too little. So all of that is turned around to students, faculty and staff, and friends and family of the campus community, and gives these all of these materials back to the community for free. So with the Free Store, we also work with, teaching people how to mend clothes. We had a couple mending workshops this past semester, and just kind of trying to be more self-sufficient. So we had the So Sustainable fashion show, which is what I wrote about for this scene. And that was in celebration of the small steps that we can take to be more sustainable, whether it's just, kind of patching a pair of jeans instead of throwing them away, and just like prolonging the life of the materials that we have. And we had a fun, you can see in the picture, there's some costumes, there's some cute outfits that are all just, celebrating what we can do with what we already have. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So thanks for having us, and Madeline, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Madeline Lyons. I work at Oak Ridge Stormwater, and I'm from Georgia, and my background has been mostly focus on environment and science. I graduated from UGA with a wildlife science major. So I have a lot of experience with research and field work, but over my education and studies, I became more aware of how important it is with sustainability to connect with your community and people who aren't directly involved in environmental work if you want to make a lasting impact, especially when it comes to policy and the most pressing issues with our environment. And I always wanted to focus my life and my career to environmental work and conservation. So I was drawn to AmeriCorps because I have a very service-oriented mindset, and obviously that was a great fit. And it offered a lot of opportunities for me to work closer with people when it came with environmental work, which I haven't had a lot of experience with. And so at Oak Ridge Stormwater, I work with one other AmeriCorps member there as a part of their Healthy Waters program. And the main focus of that program is to raise awareness and interact with the community in Oak Ridge about stormwater and how to keep our waterways more healthy. And we do a lot of different things. One of the main things we do is go out to schools and teach about stormwater, interact with kids. And we also do events like river cleanups. And that kind of leads into my article because in October, we had our Clean the Clinch river cleanup. And as we were planning that cleanup, we were also working on the Halloween display for the Public Works Department in Oak Ridge. And because we're constantly thinking about ways to, interact with the public and bring awareness to the issues in our community. One of the biggest ones was obviously litter in the waterways, which is why we started the cleanup. So I was thinking about ways I could combine the two and extend the river cleanup and connect to more people with that. So I came up with the idea of the garbage boil as our monster for the Halloween display. And the idea was that we would collect trash from the river cleanup and we would use that trash afterwards and attach it to our huge garbage boil monster, who was 8 feet tall and had a tarp. And we had a lot of fun making it, but we attached all of that trash on there, and I made a sign that said, locally sourced trash from the Clinch River. And our whole theme was trash junkyard. But the idea was because with conservation, I think one of the biggest issues is you have to obviously clean up the mess we've made. The mess here being all of the trash that had come off of the roadways from negligent litter just getting off trucks. And so we were going to have this river cleanup to do a direct service and get our hands dirty and pick up the trash. But the issue stems from how the trash got there. And that's one of the hardest things to overcome. And so if there was a way we could attack the issue on both ends, I guess that's what I was trying to do with this. The metaphor of the garbage boil is gargoyles in the past have been structured on the side of buildings, and they direct water away from the edges so it wouldn't erode, so there's water coming out of their mouths. And so I use the metaphor to say that the gargoyles now are garbage boils that are like the outfalls on the sides of rivers, and a lot of trash accumulates them because of litter. And and so I think it was a really interesting project, and I had a lot of fun making it because I like to get involved with art, so I was able to express, a lot of interest here. But we had anyway, in our river cleanup, we collected over 500 pounds of trash, and we were able to use some of that on our garbage boil. And then at the event, over 2,000 people were able to walk through and see our monster and our sign, and the kids were able to get involved. And I think it was just a really great project overall. Yeah.
Hey there. My name is Nathan Davidson. I'm the Program Development Coordinator over at Fig Tree of the Cokesbury United Methodist Church. It is our newest ministry, primarily focused on supporting the unhoused or those nearing eviction. It started in January of 2020, right before COVID. So it's kind of gone through a transitional period where it's been trying to find its identity. And we seem to have found it with the unhoused population, as that seems to be really prevalent in the Knoxville area. One of the first things noticed moving down here, unfortunately. But it's really pictured as a community center meant to connect community members to the majority of Cokesbury services, ranging from recovery services to child services. And we're trying to develop more community relationships and develop a bigger impact on the community itself, as we are a very new ministry. But we found that our plan for bringing people back into housing, providing reentry services, has been going pretty well. We try to provide a holistic service, including shower access, laundry, computer access, hot meals, and relationship, which has seemed to be one of our biggest things. Going back to the whole idea of conservation with Zines, relationship has really made reentry efforts more sustainable, with people actually feeling as if they have that support, and the mental illness portion of things not bearing down on them once they get back into housing. It makes people more motivated to actually take the right steps in going back into housing. It gives people the trust in you and the services you're providing to actually take those steps that you're recommending they take. Getting unhoused individuals back into housing can be really, really challenging, and there's a million different barriers to it, but our Fig Tree site has found a decent formula that is always improving to reentry. So that's our Fig Tree site. About me a little, I'm from Vermont, grew up there, just graduated from University of Vermont in May. Studied community international development, that was my major. I guess not all places have that major, with the minor in communication. So community organizing, outreach stuff was always in my mirror, but I chose Knoxville specifically, mainly because of the opportunity. Just working at Fig Tree, it seemed like I'd have a lot of responsibility and impact and professional development opportunities. And I've heard great things about Knoxville as well, outside of the AmeriCorps side of things. I just heard it's a cool city, so decided to move down here. And for my Zine, I primarily focused on this interview I had with one of our unhoused individuals named Joseph. He had arrived at the site a week before I had. And he was a bit newer to the process. We have people who will be sleeping in our parking lot for years. And we just kind of keep trying to make the right steps for them. But Joseph was an individual who was briefly at our site, because there wasn't as many barriers in terms of having identification, having vehicle access, things like that. So we got him employed pretty quickly at a care center, and it's just a big packaging center neighboring our church. And we were able to fix his vehicle following its destruction. And I've done a series of interviews with these homeless community members, and all of them, one of the primary focuses that they stress is the mental illness side of things, and how they just don't even want to get back into society because they don't really want to live. So our relationship side of things and our connection to Joseph, he had consistently referenced as something that he really appreciated and allowed him to keep moving on forward. And I think that's what Fig Tree site is about, developing that community with those who kind of don't have their voices heard. And I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Riley Douglas. I am a state national serving at Knoxville Community Development Corporation. I am their first AmeriCorps. So I'm going to kind of explain KCDC as well as I can. First off, it's a huge entity. We have Knox City, Knox County, and then we're also affiliated with HUD. We provide housing for low-income elderly folks, people with disability, and Section 8, and the rest of Knoxville community as well. We have over 7,000 current residents, and KCDC still has a lot of room to grow. KCDC's futures are to redevelop housing and create more supportive, impactful, and fostering self-sufficiency for our residents and surrounding communities. We are currently working on redeveloping 2 major housing properties, which is Western Heights and Austin Homes. These include property plans to create better food resources, jobs, parks, outdoor recreation, healthy lifestyles, and to break down barriers our residents face every day. My role there as open space coordinator is to think creatively about open spaces, what their possibilities are, accessibilities, barriers, and goals of restoration and cohabitation with humans and the more than human world. I'm interested in creating spaces that invite folks to enjoy the outdoors, consider ideas of environmental conservation and community reciprocity and revitalization. Every day I work with partners to create community gardens, foster partner sufficiency, urban wildlife habitats, and environmental education opportunities. I came to AmeriCorps with a BFA from the Art Institute of Chicago. My art and my passion is the study of natural dye with Appalachian craft. I work as also a board member of the Museum of Infinite Outcomes, and I'm a certified master gardener from the University of Tennessee. With my specialties in growing natural dye and harvesting color, my personal professional practice focus on the maker's role of creating sustainable methodologies. I like to grow and forage my own plant matter. Meanwhile, during the pandemic, when it happened, I was actually working in the service industry, and I left because of lack of healthcare and feeling safe. And also I had a call to action to kind of rise up and help others who were facing similar barriers. So I started at the KCDC because I was really interested in working outside, but also doing direct action. So it was kind of a perfect role. As far as my zine entry, it was kind of a write-up around a project of volunteerism that I did at Guy B. Love Towers. This year, we partnered with CAC for like a long-term traditional of environmental education through community engagement. Guy B. Love Towers Pollinator Garden embodies the reciprocal nature of both community and partnerships and restorative environmental stewardship. In addition to gathering spaces for residents and reducing food insecurity, because we planted food as well, we also created a natural urban wild habitat for bees, butterflies, birds, and more. These invisible neighbors are actually essential to help our wildflowers, fruits, and veggies that we grow in our gardens and yards. We partnered with Native Plant Rescue Squad, Stanley's Greenhouse, and Trees Knoxville to plant over 100 native plants, and some herbs were in there too. And besides creating like a habitat and food source for our residents, it was also kind of my idea to talk about biodiversity within this project. I was really interested in the fact that we had such a diverse and wide group of partners. I think with all of the volunteer days combined, we had over 40 volunteers. Again, from AmeriCorps, UT, Native Plant Squad, and Trees, Knoxville. And it was really creating a micro kind of ecology within Fourth and Gill that affected the larger East Tennessee like macro environment. So creating something that was sustainable, wouldn't need as much watering, wouldn't need as much care as, you know, traditional landscaping that we have every day. And it was just a really fun project, and we got to hang out with volunteers and talk about sustainability and environmental restoration for over a few days. And yeah, that was pretty much it.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Please let me know if you can't hear me. My name is Sarah Demsky. I am serving at Knox Education Foundation, and we work closely with KCS to close funding gaps. So we kind of serve as a conduit between students and schools and the greater community. So that's our role in Knoxville and Knox County. I am from Washington State near Portland, Oregon, and my background is mainly in education and political science. So AmeriCorps gave me the opportunity to spend my time after graduation serving others and helping the world, as well as experience a new place that I'd never been before. And the South is very different from Washington State, so it's been a lot of fun. And I also got to see a different side of education through it too. And then my zine submission, when I found out it was about conservation, you can think of conservation in so many different ways. So it was fun to think about. And the poem is kind of just a commentary of what I notice around conservation and people's habits around it. And we all are just trying to conserve things that are important and meaningful to us. And sometimes we expect everyone else to feel the same way. We also conserve things that are big, conserve things that are really small. So this was just kind of a commentary of what I saw conservation as. So that's me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our members for hopping on with us and telling us your stories and expanding upon your zine entries. I feel like this is probably one of the most in-depth insights we've been able to give our board as long as I've been program director. And I thank the board for giving us the time to talk to you about what our members are doing. A lot of times what they do just can't be captured in like a performance measure or a number. So I feel like this gives a lot more insight into them as individuals, their motivations, their passions, their creativity. And it's a great honor to work for CAC with great AmeriCorps members, great staff, and I'm open for any questions or comments the board might have.
Thank you so much, Jason, and thank you to the members of this past year's AmeriCorps for sharing their experiences with us. It's we don't usually have this opportunity to get the individual stories, and it's wonderful. And we're most appreciative for your efforts to so innovatively address some of the problems that are facing our community and making it a better place because of your presence here. We're so happy that you did spend the past year here. Some of you perhaps are continuing for another year. I hope so. At any rate, we really do appreciate your service to our community and all that you have done in the past year to make this a better place. Thank you very, very much. This is a great opportunity to hear from you all. Do you have any comments? Do any of the board members have any comments or questions that you might like to ask? I think the stories were self-explanatory, but I don't want to squander any opportunities you might have to make some comments. There we go. Judy, did you have something you wanted to say? Do you have something you want? Oh, someone has their hand up. Who has their hand up? No, I think those are all members. No, somebody's rubbing her nose, I think. Am I missing someone? Yes.
Will add
Lisa,
that
is it you? No.
this is Lisa.
Oh, Lisa.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lisa?
I will add that the work that all of the AmeriCorps members do is incredible. And just to think that they are throughout our community making a significant impact just really moves me. And I'm also a former AmeriCorps alum. I served in Kentucky back in 2000. So the experience is a very rich one, and each person that presented today has really embraced it and is fully involved and committed to their work. And it's great to see that, especially from such a young group of folks in various ages also, and just want to commend you all for your work in the community. And I think the board members will be getting a special gift related to this presentation, and I'll let Jason just mention that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Jason?
Yeah, like Ashlee alluded to earlier, we actually have copies of the zine right there. Kathy has it. So you're welcome to pick them up. If you're at CAC, you can have them. And if you stop by sometime, you're welcome to pick them up too. It's a really beautiful piece that gives a strong insight into what the experience it is.
Oh, this is wonderful. We don't usually see this. get an inside view. And I'm most appreciative to you for putting this together for us. So seems like a wonderful presentation, and look forward to seeing more about your experiences. So it's wonderful. Thank you so very much for all your efforts. I guess being in seclusion, or what do they call isolation, maybe, you put it to good use, those of you who maybe weren't out in the field. Yes, Anna, would you like to say something? Yeah.
I just wanted to say to Deb Bethel that she knows that I was at hers, this So Sustainable Fashion Show. Oh. And it was really a lot of fun. So just hi, Deb. Oh, that's great.
And it's so nice to hear from you.
Yeah. You too. I'm really happy for everything you're doing, Deb.
Thank you. Thanks for, yeah, Anne was a part of it with the Sustainable Future Center. So thank you so much.
Great. Anybody else have any comment, anything they'd like to offer? Very well. Thank you, Jason. I miss seeing you all together. You know, this is one of my favorite meetings each year, to see the AmeriCorps members. When you become an octogenarian, let me tell you, all that young energy is just very uplifting. And I think you picked a very good way to share your experiences with us, and we're grateful for that.